At the beginning of the film, we see a man named Matthew returning from a business trip. On the plane, he dreams of a little girl running through a flower-filled meadow. From the airport, Matthew calls his daughter Sarah. He misses her and promises that he will be home soon. At the entrance to his building, Matthew helps a neighbor who has to breathe through an oxygen mask due to the city's severe air pollution. Matthew lives across the street from his wife and daughter. His wife's name is Anna, and she is a scientist. Because of Sarah's illness, the girl has to stay inside a special hyperbaric chamber 24/7. If she breathes unfiltered air, she will die. She communicates with her father via a radio transmitter. Matthew tells Anna that he was in Canada. He met with scientists who developed a treatment method that could help Sarah, but they have not conducted any trials yet. Matthew wants to send his daughter to Canada for treatment, but Anna is against it. She fears they might be deceived. Despite her constant isolation, Sarah has friends. They too are locked inside hyperbaric chambers, like her. While Matthew is taking a shower, the news on TV reports a series of strange earthquakes in Europe. Suddenly, the building starts shaking. The lights go out, sirens wail outside, and people scream. Matthew quickly gets dressed and steps outside. People are running away in panic from something. He follows to see what has terrified them and sees walls of fog filling the spaces between buildings. Anyone who enters the fog collapses dead. Matthew sprints toward his wife and daughter's apartment. He takes Anna upstairs. Sarah remains inside her hyperbaric chamber where she is safe for now. But if the battery powering the system runs out, she will be in danger. Matthew and Anna manage to reach the top floor. Everything left below is engulfed in the fog. An elderly couple, Lucien and Colette, live in the apartment upstairs. Colette's memory is failing, but Lucien, despite his old age, remains mentally sharp. They all step onto the balcony and see that the fog has completely consumed the city. Then they go back inside. Anna checks Sarah's hyperbaric chamber battery using an app on her smartphone. She realizes that if power isn't restored, the battery will die in 10 hours, and the chamber will stop functioning. In the elderly couple's apartment, Matthew finds binoculars. With them, he climbs to the roof to get a better view. He sees that the fog has swallowed all the streets of Paris, but some people have survived. Lucien brings out an old radio and tries to turn it on, but it's broken. Meanwhile, Matthew steps onto the staircase to check how high the fog has risen. He wants to try going down to Sarah to replace her battery, but he isn't sure he can hold his breath for that long. He remembers that their neighbor, who lives in the apartment below Lucien's, has an oxygen mask with a tank. Holding his breath, Matthew climbs down a drain pipe, breaks the window, and finds the mask. He seals all the openings with duct tape. In the next room, he finds a living Labrador puppy. Its mother lies dead beside it. Matthew rushes to Sarah's apartment, replaces the battery, gives her some water and a flashlight. Then he leaves, but instead of returning to Lucien's apartment, he heads outside into the fog-covered streets. On the street, he sees the aftermath of the toxic gas. Soon he spots a hybrid car and removes its batteries. Matthew hears voices in the distance, follows them, and encounters soldiers who are leading survivors to higher ground. At the highest point in the city, there is no fog. The soldiers, like the survivors, wear protective masks. They give one to Matthew as well and invite him to come with them. He refuses to go, only asking for a spare oxygen tank for his daughter. Anna and Sarah are very worried about Matthew, but he returns with the necessary supplies. At night, he steps onto the staircase to check how high the fog has risen. He marks the wall with special indicators. He tells Anna about it, and they realize that no one is likely coming to rescue them anymore. While Matthew sleeps, dreaming of Sarah walking in a meadow, Anna goes to her apartment to get some tools. With them, she repairs the radio. Authorities warn people to stay indoors and take precautions. A noise comes from the street. Matthew and Anna climb onto the roof and see chaos erupting at the place where the survivors were taken. The couple realizes they must leave. They can seek refuge with Sarah's friend, who lives with her parents on higher ground. They just need to get a special suit from the lab so Sarah can safely reach her friend. Anna and Matthew decide to go together. It's safer that way. They visit their daughter to say goodbye. She asks them to check on her friend who lives nearby as his parents are not home, and she is worried about him. Matthew and Anna go to the boys' house, and just as they are about to head upstairs, a dog runs toward them. It growls and tries to attack, forcing them to flee. With visibility in the fog nearly zero, Matthew doesn't realize he is running toward the river. He falls into the water while Anna manages to escape the dog. When he climbs out, Matthew spots a person in a protective suit sitting in a car, but he doesn't dare take the suit from the corpse. Instead, he rushes toward the laboratory where Sarah's suit is stored. There he meets Anna. Together they find the right room and take the suit. Suddenly a fire breaks out in the adjacent room. By accident they open the wrong door and the blast wave throws them back. When Matthew regains consciousness, he realizes he can't breathe. The hose connecting his mask to the oxygen tank is torn. He and Anna must share a single mask, taking turns every few steps. Finally, they reach higher ground where the fog does not reach. Anna treats Matthew's wound, and he sends her back with the suit for their daughter. They cannot share one mask indefinitely. Matthew encourages his wife, telling her how much he loves them. He then attempts to find his way home by moving across rooftops. On one of the platforms, he finds scattered belongings. Moving further, he discovers a man's corpse. Someone has shot him. Matthew enters a covered parking lot and finds an oxygen tank, putting it on. But then a man with a gun appears. He tells Matthew that they are all going to die anyway, and that he wants to spare him from suffering. However, Matthew refuses to give up. He lunges at the stranger, and they both fall down into the fog. The man suffocates. Meanwhile, Anna runs home. Her oxygen supply is nearly depleted. Just as she reaches the entrance to the building, it runs out completely, forcing her to climb the stairs without a mask, holding her breath. Upon entering the apartment, she discovers that the case containing the suit was damaged by the explosion that nearly killed her and Matthew. The suit is ruined, making it useless. Anna is devastated. She speaks to her daughter over the radio, trying to comfort her, but the girl seems to have already accepted her fate. Just then, an alert on her smartphone goes off. The battery charges drop to 5%, meaning the hyperbaric chamber will soon shut down. Without hesitation, Anna rushes downstairs to replace the battery, but Lucian tries to stop her. He wants to go to Sarah instead, arguing that if he dies, it won't be a big loss. He is already old. However, Anna refuses. Holding her breath, she descends to Sarah. She barely has enough air to replace the battery, but she does it despite her daughter's protests. Sarah tries to convince her mother to leave everything and go back upstairs. Anna realizes she won't make it back in time, so she says goodbye to Sarah and runs away. At that moment, Matthew returns home. He climbs upstairs and hears Sarah's voice. She is calling for her mother. Sarah tells him that Anna left and is not responding. Matthew follows her path and finds his wife's lifeless body on the staircase. At that moment, Sarah hears her father's desperate scream. Matthew goes up to Lucian's apartment, picks up the radio, and tells Sarah everything. He marks a route on the map and takes notes when another earthquake occurs. Afterward, the fog begins to rise even higher. Matthew takes an oxygen tank and heads to the place where he saw a protective suit. He wants to bring it back and modify it for his daughter. He also intends to bring masks and oxygen tanks for Lucian and his wife, but Lucian protests. He says that he and his wife have lived long enough and are ready to go peacefully, and that Matthew doesn't need to risk himself for them. Reluctantly, Matthew agrees. He says goodbye to his daughter and leaves, while Lucian and his wife lie in bed, waiting for the fog to fill their apartment. Matthew retrieves the suit, and on his way back, spots an abandoned scooter. He gets on and rides home. Along the way, he gets distracted and doesn't notice a boy stepping onto the road. The scooter crashes into a car, and Matthew is thrown over the handlebars. He hits his head, but when he regains consciousness, he refuses to give up. Injured but determined, he keeps moving forward. Just before reaching home, his strength fails him. While Matthew was gone, Sarah kept calling for him non-stop, but the radio remained silent. Then she hears footsteps in the hallway. It's her friend Noah, who had been left alone in his hyperbaric chamber without his parents. Together they find Matthew. It turns out that the fog does not harm people with their condition. They can breathe freely in an atmosphere that is toxic to everyone else. Matthew is overjoyed for his daughter. Holding his breath, he removes his mask to kiss Sarah. He embraces her in the middle of the fog-covered street and watches as the toxic mist rises over the buildings, spreading further, threatening to wipe out all of humanity. Matthew has another dream. Sarah and other children are happily running through a meadow laughing. He wakes up without his mask. Someone has treated his wounds. At first, Matthew doesn't realize that he is inside the hyperbaric chamber where Sarah once lived. Its walls protect him from the poisonous gas. He picks up the radio and calls for Sarah. She responds just as he once did when she was inside. This is where the movie ends. Subscribe and hit the like button if you want more videos like this.